Okay, good evening, everybody. We are just going to wait until all our members and penders have joined the stream before we kick off tonight's show. Rosanna, good evening to you.
Good evening. Wait, I want to see if we're on.
We're on.
Oh, there we are. Hey, Francine. Hey, Wendy.
Okay, Mrs. Gopal, you can hear us backstage. We haven't brought you on stage as yet. We're going to greet everybody in our stream, and then I will let you know when you are live. Okay, you can just nod because we can see you. Okay, she can ask. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk at the Fan Zone. We're just going to wait for everybody to come on. As you can see, we didn't start off with the song because we feel like we've got a lot to get through during this session. Our special guest is backstage, but once we have our numbers in, then we will bring Mrs. Gopal on. Okay, how's it, Ange? I got your message. That's fine.
Hey,
hello,
Ange.
Francine. I think Wendy's in the stream. Hi, Wendy, if you are here. Okay, guys.
Hi, there's an Amanda in the stream. Good evening to you, Amanda. Good evening, Neil. And good evening, Vincent.
Okay, Anita, how's it? Good evening to you. Guys, if you can just
Hi,
wave or do something just to indicate that you are safe. Okay, calls, yeah. Mr.
Hi,
Ali,
Paul.
we have not seen you in our stream.
Wow.
Well, it's good morning to you.
Hi, Keegan.
Sheridan, good evening to you. Welcome. You are on time this evening.
Hi, Melissa.
Okay, Amanda Swain has greeted us. Right. Where is everybody else? Okay, guys, while people are walking in, Beverly, good evening to you.
We're going to recap on what we did last week.
Okay, so last week, basically, the 2nd of April was Autism Awareness the day, right? So what we did is we broke our Let's Talk with the Fan Zone into 2 sessions. A session which we had last week, Wednesday, and then today is going to be our 2nd session. If you missed last week's session, we would actually like you guys to go click on the link. You'll find it on the Fan Zone page. You'll find it on the Radio of Color page, just to get a feel of a sense of our first episode. So basically, we spoke to Shanaz Ali. She's one of our regulars at Radio of Color and also a very good friend of Roz and I's. And she gave us insights as to what it's like from a parent's perspective, okay? She spoke about what happens in their home. She gave us their routine. She gave us Caden's, what he likes, what he doesn't like. It was basically a conversation Roz and Shanaz had during that stream.
Okay, so Shanaz and I share some common ground in the sense as we are both autism parents. So Shanaz's son, Caden, is nonverbal and Jude is Asperger's. So we actually had kind of a conversation around our diagnosis. As you know, under the under the umbrella, on the spectrum, when they say you're on the spectrum, there's a lot of different categories that you could be under that spectrum. And like we said last week, not every child that has autism or is on the spectrum is the same. If you meet one person with autism, you have met one person with autism. They might have similarities, but they are all different and all unique. So Shanaz took us through her journey with raising Caden. As we know, we all face different challenges, and because Caden is nonverbal, they have found a way to communicate through a whole lot of different avenues, because obviously communication is very important. So that was just a day in the life of a parent bringing up an autistic child. So today we decided to focus on our teachers because we know that teaching in mainstream is one thing, but teaching in remedial is a whole different ball game. Like we said, each child comes with their own specific different set of rules. And imagine teaching in mainstream. Teachers find that difficult, but imagine teaching in a remedial school where you've got to cater to each child's needs. So today we've got a special guest in, Mrs. Gopal, we're going to bring her in a few minutes, and she is a remedial teacher at a remedial unit. Okay, so
in a mainstream school.
Yeah, well, the school is a mainstream school, but they have a remedial unit.
Okay.
So, which is separate from the school. So, yes, she only teaches remedial. The mainstream teachers are different sets of teachers. So we're going to bring her in and we're going to listen to how, I think, guys, I don't think our teachers get enough credit.
They don't at all.
Especially our remedial teachers, because last year...
Ms. Scopel is smiling backstage.
No, last year, during the lockdown, when I had to play mother/teacher, I almost had a nervous breakdown. Like, really almost had a nervous breakdown. It is just to get his attention and to get him to focus and to try and give him little breaks in between, because I know that he can only focus for so long, and it was really, really kind of hectic. So,
okay, so Neil, good evening to you. Wayne, good evening to you. Mr. and Mrs. Nibbles, good evening to you. How's it, Penny? And Mr. and Mrs. Howell, good evening to you. I think we've greeted everybody. Without further ado, we are going to bring on Ms. Scopel. So,
and before we bring on Ms. Scopel, I do know that Wendy is a teacher. Wendy, we see you there. And Wendy comes from a family of teachers. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Like, Wendy comes from a whole family of teachers, so there's a lot of teaching experience. So, Wendy, please feel free to comment and to share your points of view with us while we are chatting. Ms. Gopal will be answering questions as we go along. So, guys, our teachers are very special, whether it's remedial or whether it's mainstream. We have teachers in the comments, so please feel free to ask questions.
Okay, good evening, Auntie G, and good evening, Justin. I'm not sure if you would Celeste, but hello to you too. Guys, before we bring on our special guest, tonight, when we light up the comments department, we are going to light it up thinking of our teachers. Okay, so we are going to shed some light, whether you are teaching mainstream or you're teaching whatever. In general, all the teachers, we are going to light up the comments department for them. So let us go.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I can hear you quite clearly. Okay, Mrs. Gopal, good evening to you and welcome to the fan zone. Well, yes, welcome to the fan zone. You know Roz. My name is Tony and we are the hosts for this particular show. From my side, because Roz is going to be doing most of the talking, we would just like to say thank you so much for coming onto this platform and for agreeing to speak to us with regards to this.
I would just like to say thank you so much for giving me this experience to be on this platform to share my teaching techniques with autism and children on the spectrum, as well as specific learning difficulties. So thank you for having me.
100%. Okay. Roz is going to dive straight into it, and then I will pop in towards the end of the show. Oh, sorry, one more thing. You might see, okay, you can't see comments on your side, but what if there's questions during the course of the show, I normally pin it, so it will come up. Let's just do an example.
Please do not pin Celeste's one.
No. Okay, can you see what's on your screen now, Alice?
Yes.
Okay, so basically that's, if there's a question, this is what it will look like. Once you are finished answering Roz's question or once you're done with the discussion, then we will just have a look at what's going on at the bottom of the screen. All right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, so Ms. Gopal, first and foremost, can you introduce yourself, your name, your title, the school that you teach at, and maybe your passion, like why did you go into teaching?
Okay, I am Mrs. P. Gopal, a remedial unit teacher at Pinetown Senior Primary School. I teach the grade 5 learners in the unit. For me, teaching is giving back. My passion is educating little minds, making a difference in their life, not just children in specific. I have been a mainstream school teacher, and then I've moved on to the remedial unit. And for me, the remedial unit is a challenge, something that I enjoy each day. Each individual child brings so much of growth and development each day. As long as you can, or for me, as long as I can make a difference, the slightest difference in a day, that makes teaching a whole lot better for me.
Okay. So, Mrs. Gopal, can you take us through a normal day? Because I know, how many kids do you have in your class?
I have 12 learners.
Okay, so you have 12 learners, and I'm guessing that each learner has a different learning disability, if we can call
Yes,
it that.
yes,
Okay, so you have to cater to each and every one of their disabilities. So
yes.
can you take us through a normal day in the remedial unit in grade 5?
Okay, remedial unit teaching on its own is for learners that have specific learning barriers as well as being on the spectrum. So for a normal day, a teacher has to now put themselves in the shoes of the learners. We know that learners thrive in smaller classroom environments. And in these environments, they then got to build relationships with their teachers. If this is not done, learning cannot take place on that day, especially with learners on the spectrum. It is absolutely important that relationships are built between the learner and the teacher. These relationships are not built instantly, or it's not easy to build them. However, when it's done, it's built on trust.
Mm-hmm.
So building it on trust and developing a bond with the child allows the child to be more comfortable in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So once the child is more comfortable, they gain confidence. They are then able to actively work in the classroom, engage, participate in the classroom environment, as well as ask for assistance from the teacher. Initially, in a classroom day environment, like if we had to make eye contact with the child will try not to because of doubting themselves. We as the teacher, that is why I say it's so important going into every single day. We have to maintain a positive relationship with the child. We have to create a safe ground for the child. Once the child feels that they are in a safe environment, they have the trust of the teacher, they can actively engage. So it's really important building a relationship firstly, also gaining the trust of the child and allowing the child to gain your trust in order for the actual classroom learning and teaching to take place. And this is done with continuous encouragement to learners. As I said, learners doubt themselves a lot. So every day is a new challenge. They could just wake up and not feel the best. They could have a tummy ache, or their meds may have not kicked in yet, or it's making their tummy sore. So these are the things we deal with in the morning. So we then need to now encourage and motivate our learners. And once we start doing that, learners feel more confident in the classroom and is able then to actively engage and be successful in what they are doing. And thereafter, I speak again about eye contact. Learners doubt themselves. So for them to go back and build eye contact, this takes time. It doesn't happen in the first term, or maybe not even in the second term, but towards the latter part of the year. They have to build their relationships on confidence. And teachers then need to, as myself, we have a close and understanding relationship with them. Also, something to take into account is that when we as teachers build these relationships, we are very guarded in the sense that we do not treat the learners differently. Learners on the spectrum want to be treated like every other individual. They do not want to be labeled or isolated. They want to be treated as equal to the other learners. So when we do build these relationships, we build them with a guard, knowing that we cannot then isolate this learner or label the learner. With that, there are other learners in the classroom that we also need to see to. So we can't allow them to feel that attention is given to specific learners only. So there's all of these things that we got to take into account before we start our teaching day.
Can I ask, when we spoke before the show, we spoke about how you communicate to a learner. So as like with me, I know that I can't give Jude a mouthful and expect him to go out and carry out all the tasks that I've given him. I have to give him short, precise instructions that he understands, let him do it, and then he has to come back. So with regards to when communicating with your kids and giving them instructions, knowing that they process differently. I know some kids process sight and not really hearing. So if they're facing their back to you, they might not actually hear what you're saying. Some kids go into like a zone when they start working and everything else is blocked out. So can you just take us through your communication with learners, as in giving instructions when you're going through a lesson? Do you need to give each child a specific set of instructions, or do you do it as a classroom?
Okay, so when teaching is done and communication is used, which is throughout the day, I do use a FA system. And now this FA system helps learners listen to everything that is said. It also has volume with it. So when instructions are given, we also got to think of the learner, each individual learner. So a learner on the spectrum, we need to avoid a sensory overload. So that comes in with smell, with light, with the noise. Yeah, so the noise level is the most important one I find in my classroom. So when giving instructions, we got to look at all of these things and the environment that they're in. So being in a smaller classroom environment, we are then able to give instructions repeatedly. So what learners actually thrive on is smaller classrooms and repetition. Repetition is key in the remedial unit. Every instruction that's given, we repeat it over 3 times. It has to be visible to learners. The visual aids are there to remind learners of what needs to be done. So on a normal day, if I'm giving an instruction, I will read it out, or I'll speak and I'll say it out 3 times. I then will use keywords from that very same question that I've asked or instruction that I've given and phrase it in different ways to cater for all the learners in the classroom. Thereafter, I would write it on the board. Once it's written on the board, I would either use my finger to point at each word or a ruler, and then learners will then read aloud with me. They first read aloud with me, and then I will allow individual children to read the questions that are set on the board or in the instruction. And this we find helps because learners are then processing. You see, with our learners, it's one thing, writing and written work and then processing it. We also need to understand that oral ability is not all children's strength. So we have to break it down. We have to use written and oral. So when it's oral, I would do the talking, I would get them to repeat after me, and then when it's written, we will then go over it together. I'll ask them to read the instruction that I've set out. We use non-verbal cues in the classroom, whereas I would make eye contact with the learner. If I can see, I would notice in their facial expression that they're not understanding or they're a bit anxious. So I would use their facial cues to now use non-verbal cues with them. And by non-verbal, I mean I would gain eye contact with them. I will then nod to understand them, and they would do the same, just to give me some kind of exchange. And this is not verbal exchange, just some kind of exchange to know that they're understanding or they're processing, because we don't want to go through an entire concept and then the learner doesn't grasp it, like leaving out every bit of information. So it's so important to have non-verbal cues as well as verbal cues. When we use verbal cues, we don't want the child to feel that we are picking on them, calling their name out too much, because that's when the child's anxiety kicks in. They then want to hide away or go to the bathroom. So these are the anxiety signs that will come in. So therefore, when instructions are given or communication is given, it's either verbal or non-verbal cues that we use in the classroom.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I know that in most remedial schools, the children have to go to different types of therapy. So you'll have your speech therapy, your occupational therapy, your English, your reading, where you'd have like reading time, psychology. So in your day, I know that you guys have to incorporate these therapies into your day, which actually makes your day shorter. But listening to you, you're telling me that you have to, repetition is a big thing. So how do you, as a teacher, manage this? It's like, I feel like a shorter amount of time with a lot
So
more
much to
work
do.
to get through.
For me, I feel it's just built in now. I've got to repeat everything. It's key in the remedial unit is redirection, refocus, repetition. Those are the three things we go by. We have to go by with our kids. And only by that do we know our children are actually, even if it's one piece of information they're taking in, that's more than enough as long as they have understood the concept. So repetition, refocusing, and redirection is key for us. Yes, you might find that, or you might think that I speak too much or I'm repeating myself a lot, but it's what helps the child. And we are able to put it in.
Tell me, Mrs. Gopal, sorry, are you still talking?
No, I just wanted to say with the repetition, we adapt our curriculum so that we cater for the needs of the learner. So that's how repetition also is not given too much of time wastage in that sense. So we use our time sparingly, but with the fact knowing that our curriculum is adapted to suit each and every individual in the classroom at their levels.
Okay, that's perfect.
Mrs. Gopal, Rose spoke about occupational therapy and whatever, does the whole class go to those sessions, or do you divide it? How does it work in class?
Okay, we get certain days that we would do story grammar as an entire class. So the speech therapist will come to the classroom and do reading with them and all types of reading skills with them. And this is the story grammar lesson, including all 12 learners. Then we have specific speech therapy and specific occupational therapy, where learners get assessed first. The therapist will assess them, see the level that they are functioning at, see what they need to work on with the kids. And then they select those learners that need to go. And then we break it down into maybe 2 or 3 learners leaving a class at a time to get this therapy done throughout the day. So it's done in the classroom as well as in the therapist in the therapist office, being the occupational therapist or the speech therapist.
Okay, so when 2 or 3 go out, what is your classroom looking at? What do you do during that time to cater for those that are still in your class?
We work with reading for meaning. We work with maths concepts. At this time, we then move on to the carpet. So in the remedial unit, my classroom is quite big and I have a lot of carpet space. So I would take my kids then to the carpet. I then do individualized work with them, work on the needs of the learner. We have whiteboards to use as resources, and we use the carpet in that sense where if I'm reading, I'll then ask learners, you pick out now words that you want to expand with. So if I read a sentence, I allow them to pick out a word. And then from that word, each child will pick out a different word. And from that, we will then do a mind map, pick up all the adjectives for that word. So it's building on an English language lesson, even though there's fewer learners in the classroom at the time.
Okay, so when we were speaking earlier, we spoke about a lot of things. We spoke about how kids on the spectrum thrive. We spoke about teaching support, teaching skills, and we spoke about classroom intervention for learners on the spectrum. There were a lot of things that you actually wanted to get across. So I'm trying to make sure that in this time, you actually get the message that you wanted to get across. So can you elaborate more on the things that I've mentioned? Would you like me to mention them again? Skills that learners can take back to mainstream. My other question was, Okay, let me put this question first. So now I'm trying to get everything in. So initially, when my son was enrolled at Pinetown Senior Primary, people look. The medial is supposed to be a temporary thing where they give you the tools to go into mainstream. But my question to you was when we spoke that not all children can go back into mainstream because some children cannot function in larger classrooms or because of their high function, their noise sensitivity and everything else. So what then happens to those kids?
So learners, Python remedial unit is a short-term remedial unit. And in this unit, we equip the learners with skills which will eventually make them or enable them to work as an independent learner, which mainstream requires. So if a child is meant to be in the remedial unit for 3 years, we would say, but then 3 years is just not enough. The child needs more skills. And we know if the child leaves, it's not going to benefit the child. So on a good note, the Python remedial unit, as before I forget this, the Python remedial unit is now extended to having a grade 7 class.
Yes.
So, yes, so we have our classes from grade R going up all the way to grade 7. So as of 2022, we will have a grade 7 remedial unit class. Going back to when learners leave, it's the parents that now got to go and basically shop around for schools. Look at the criteria that that's going to fit your child. Remember, each child is different. They're a unique individual. So they're going to have different needs. Remembering that we cannot take a child from a remedial unit, for instance, a child from my class that is only with 12 learners, take them and put them in a class of 30 learners. We have to put them then in a school that is going to support their needs. Maybe a school that has a support class with fewer learners in it. A school that understands and caters for these extra needs of these children. A mainstream class has a lot of children in it, and it's not going to be beneficial to take a child from a classroom of 12 and then put them in a classroom of 30. So when we look at it, yes, the teacher will give them their attention, but remembering 12 to 30 individualized teaching. So when parents do want to take their kids out, or they do need to take them out at a certain age, they have to go around looking at schools, go to specific schools that cater for your child's needs. Ask the relevant questions, come back to the remedial school that they are in, get information, get advice from the teachers that they're with. Go to therapists, ask them if it's going to benefit their child if you take your child and put them into a classroom that is of a larger scale. I would go back to the noise level. In a remedial unit class, it's only internal noise. So, and it's at a moderate level that the child can manage. Whereas in a mainstream class, there's internal noise of 30 kids. I'm just using the number 30. There's 30 kids. The internal noise is going to affect the learner, especially those on the spectrum. And then you don't want to then allow your child who's gained all of these skills to then go into a mainstream environment and then just drop. You don't want them to drop in their confidence, because what we aim for in the mainstream is to firstly build their confidence, boost them, grow them, develop them in their skills, that they're then going to take it out and use it in a mainstream environment. But what is most important is that parents go around looking for the correct school or the right fit for their child with their needs, because you don't want the child to go back into a mainstream school first term and the child cannot cope. Then you want to know what happened. How is my child now going to cope the rest of the term, the rest of the year? What is going to come of my child when you already built and instilled values and encouragement and motivation in them? So it's so important. for the parent to liaise with the teachers in a remedial school, get them to help you find a school that will support your child's needs. And also you as a parent to go to those schools, have an interview with the teachers or the principals there, see what the school is. Go for like an orientation evening or an orientation morning, just to familiarize yourself with the school. Remember, you know your child best. You know what your child is going to benefit from and what he or she is not going to benefit from. So it's very important that the parent goes and interacts with other schools, get information, collect all of this, so they find the best school for their child when they want to go back into mainstream.
Okay, so we talked about shopping around for schools, but we know that in Durban, remedial schools are like, there's very little choice around, and you do get the private schools that do have remedial support, but they are really, really expensive, and most people can't afford it. I was just reading one of the comments by one of the other teachers, where she says that government schools need remedial classes. It's an absolute necessity, but they don't have the means. And obviously they don't have the educators to be able to support that. I think that in government schools, if we had more remedial supports, a lot of us parents would actually go that route, because the private schools are really, really ridiculous. The prices are really high. I had such a problem looking for a remedial school, and even coming to high school, I actually have I stress about that, because there's not a lot of high schools that cater for the remedial kids. So it becomes, and the high schools that are available are private schools, and they are really, really expensive. So I think Durban on a whole just needs a more remedial or more schools to cater for autistic children.
Even with that, even in a mainstream school, I think what needs to happen going forward in mainstream schools, I obviously cannot implement it, but what I would like to see is that they have more support classes.
Yes.
And then when a child goes from the remedial unit to a mainstream school, having a support class will benefit the child, because obviously that number now is going to be of a smaller scale. It's not going to be so large like a normal mainstream class. And there'll still be one-on-one interactions with the children.
Okay, so I was just off the top of my head, right? I just actually wanted to know from you, because I know I know from Jude. So I know the mornings are a hectic morning, because the kids are taking their meds and you're waiting for it to kick in, and the meds come with a whole range of side effects. And then in the afternoon, a lot of the children start feeling overwhelmed, because now you're nearing towards the end of the day. It's this whole information overload. So they're starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed. So you get the noise sensitive children that need their noise cancelling headsets because they can't take the noise. So just in a normal day, like when you get to the afternoon and you can see that the kids now have taken, can you tell when there's a limit, or do the kids actually respond differently?
In the classroom environment, yes. I would notice like after 12, 12:30, the children then become restless. Some become restless and the others just shut down completely. Their facial expression will be rather nervous and anxious. So what I would do in that time is we would do breathing exercises. Remember, in a remedial school, in remedial unit classes, the teacher is the model for the child. So whatever skills the teacher models is what the learners will then adapt to and take on. So we would do breathing exercises. We then would do stretches just to get them flowing, just to get some energy back into them. We would then do yoga poses, and this helps. They enjoy that. Dancing. If I play a music clip and then we dance, I mean, we're not breaking it down completely, but just putting on the music and getting them to shake their heads and shake their body around it elevates their anxiety. It just takes all of that away. We also have a playground outside our classrooms. So if we would like to go outside and do physical exercise, get them to do a bit of push-ups and going onto the jungle gym, some jumping jacks. We do this twice a week and they enjoy it. They just wait for it. Miss, when are we going to do this? When are we going outside? These are the things they look forward to. So even in a normal school day, the day is broken up to where we do our core subjects, maths and English, and then our main focus is reading. Aside from the other subjects like your NST, social science, and life skills, we will incorporate exercise, but fun exercise so the learners enjoy it. Because we know when it comes to the latter part of the day, there's not much that the learner can take in now because it's an overload. Everything has to be broken down. As younger children, they cannot take in a lot. So everything we do, we have to break it down into little or smaller sections so that the child can then grasp it. So I would say it's the exercise and things like that that does help the child.
Mrs. Gopal, when you come down to doing orals and stuff in class, now you spoke about confidence levels, and obviously there are certain kids that haven't really, are not confident enough to maybe stand. Okay, first and foremost, I don't know what an oral situation is like in your class. We're going to talk about that in a few. But if you guys are doing an oral, is it done toward like in front of the whole class, or is it just you and the kid? And for those that are too shy to do orals, what then happens? What takes place?
Okay. When it comes to orals, we don't just start them at the beginning of the term. So we will build up to it. So how we build up to it is that I will sit with them in the front of the classroom. On the mat, we will read a few sentences, or we'll pick out a magazine and read out something from it. And once that's done, I'll ask the learner, okay, I'm going to move a little back. You're going to move away from me. Now you try and read that on your own. So these are the skills we try to build them up for their oral.
Okay.
When it comes to the time of the oral, yes, some learners are still anxious. We do breathing exercises. I will sit with them in the front of the class. I will assess them, and then knowing that I'm sitting close to them.
Okay.
Somewhere where they can feel safe, because you must remember the teacher is building this bond with the child, the trust bond. So when the child feels that they're in a safe common ground, they will perform to their best ability. So giving them that security or that reassurance that I'm with you, I'm right there, enables them to perform. So then an oral does not become too difficult. They're able to do it if you are continuously reinforcing the reassurance with them.
That makes sense.
Nice. Okay, there are a few things I would like to read out from the comments department. Is there anything from your side?
No, there's nothing really from my side. There's a lot of comments that have come up and people asking questions and just commenting. But maybe can you just tell us, like from your side, with regards to autism, like what would you like the parents to be aware of? I know I do homework with Jude, and it's a short set of homework, but we do it over an hour because we have to break it up every evening. And I must say, by the time he gets to it, he doesn't want to do it. So it becomes a struggle for me. So, but obviously being a parent, I've learned how to manage that. So what advice would you give to a parent that is now is to sit and do homework with their autistic kids? And you must remember, not everybody, being a parent is one thing, but not everybody has that patience and that kind of teacher touch. So what kind of advice would you give parents when dealing with homework at home?
On a normal day when homework is taken home, set aside time. So remember again, these kids on the spectrum and with specific learning disabilities are so structured and rigid that you have to keep a specific time frame. If, for instance, in a classroom, if I don't do reading at 8:30 every day, we're going to have a breakdown in the classroom. There's a meltdown because Mrs. Gopal is meant to do reading now. So we need to do it now. So that goes with homework. Set aside time that you would do homework with your child. Look at, if it's the math aspect, allow them to do 5 at a time. Allow them to do 5. Wake up, stretch, take a walk. Then go back, do the next 5. I do know sometimes homework can be overwhelming for a child. But I do stress, if it becomes too much for the child, stop. You're not going to get anywhere with the child if you push the child.
Yes, I know that.
You will not. So everything has to be structured. So allow them to have a break in between. You would notice as well, the homework has been cut down. We focus on the skills. We focus on skills of reading, time reading, normal reading of their media books. And then we have got maths with that. So we have cut it down so that parents do not have a struggle with their kids. And we say that with learners, that with children that do struggle to do homework, find different ways to do it with them. It doesn't only have to be written. Record it. If you find that your child will want to do it orally with you, record it, send it to the teacher. You know, these are different ways that you can now allow your child to get the homework done, but done in a manner that they are happy to do it. I mean, we can't force a child to work when they don't want to. Especially and it's not that they don't want to, they are overwhelmed, the overload. I mean, during the course of the day, they're sitting down, they're getting all of this information to take in. So we got to break it down in ways that's going to be fun for the child. And as I say, going back, if the child you can see is going to have a meltdown, stop. Allow the child to go through what it is at the time, the feelings of the child. We have to understand the feelings of the child. And if we don't, then we won't be able to do our job effectively. We have to understand the feelings of the child.
So one thing that I want to point out, and I said it to Tony when Jude changed from mainstream to the medial, the communication with the teacher is like constant. I actually like in the evening, like the teacher will message me, this is what needs to be done. I was like, oh my word, it actually took some getting used to, because I must say with the remedial schools, they keep you posted on everything. Send you pictures during the day with what the children are doing. It is a lot of communication. So as a mother, were you actually feeling nervous actually sending your child out to school because you know of the difficulties? When you get those pictures and you actually see like they're actually enjoying this day compared to what it used to be, it is so motivating that there is like no child is going to thrive in this environment. It's such a comfort for us mothers, like to see this. Sometimes I get pictures of Jude, and I know he hates exercise, and then I will just know by the person that's not doing anything that is Jude. But it's really it puts us at ease, because I remember when Jude was in mainstream, I had this kind of, every time the school called me, I used to be like, oh my gosh, what has happened? Something's wrong. You know, you always kind of had that feeling like something's going to go wrong. But now with all the communication and everything, it's such a relief. It is really such a relief.
Okay, Mrs. Gopal, we've literally got 15 minutes left of our show. I've got one more. I've got a comment that I've pinned onto the screen, which we're going to tackle in a few. And then we are going to say goodbye to you. On your WhatsApp, you will see that I've sent the link for the actual show. So once we've done here and you've cancelled in the broadcast from your side, you will click onto that link and you will come into our comments department. Okay, because there's a lot of comments that are actually initiated to you. Okay, so Justin Govender has said here on your screen, this has been amazing, Ms. Scalpel. Can you share some success stories in closing? Not to put you under pressure.
A success story, every day is a success story. Each and every individual gives out something every lesson. It can, as we do exercise, learners do not like to do exercise if it's not fun. Everything has to be made fun. Success, that is why I say success is from every learner, every day, every lesson. What I see from them, I mean, if a learner can spell or write a sentence, construct a sentence with an adjective, at least 2 adjectives, that's a success for me. You know, that's a success, and I'm proud of that. Just like you would say, you would get pictures as a parent, and you'd be so happy to see your child is being involved. For me as a teacher, I've conquered the world today. I'm a superwoman because my child has done this in class. You know, he or she was able to complete the specific task, which was so difficult at the beginning. You know, I could say so many things, but for me, the main success is every single day, every single lesson. If a child can come to me or raise their hand and say, Mrs. Gopal, can you help me with this? That's a success, because my child has gained that respect and relationship. They've developed that relationship that we can interact. So that's a success. Having kids in the remedial unit and in that environment, they are, I wouldn't say shy. It's their confidence levels that are really low. Firstly, they need to understand that all the reasons to why they are in the remedial unit. Thereafter, they need to now build this confidence. They cannot build it on their own. They have in the remedial unit, we use a triangle. The triangle being parent and teacher on either side. And at the base is the child. Now that child is the main focus. For the parent and the teacher to work hand in hand is only to develop and grow the child. When the child actually sees that the teacher and the parent working together, it has a positive effect on them. They can positively work in different environments. So if I'm in the classroom environment, and if I tell them, okay, I'm going to show this to your mom today, she's going to be so proud of you. I'm going to show this to Gran. I'm going to show this to Dad. They are overwhelmed. Yes, I did it, miss. I did it. You know, and getting that from my learners, I mean, as I said, my passion comes in again. That's what makes me feel so excited and wanting to be a teacher for these kids. So it's also very important. Mrs. Gopal.
Sorry, you may continue.
It's very important that the teacher and the parent involvement and interaction is always maintained.
But you know, Mrs. Gopal, I'm not just saying this, but it's important for every child, not just an autistic child. It's important for every child in the learning phase to have the support of their parent and their teacher. So that should be a norm, but more so in the remedial unit, because we know that our children need a little bit more of a push.
Okay, Mrs. Gopal from the fan zone. Are you there? Okay.
Yes, I am.
From myself and Roz, we would just like to thank you so much for coming through and for beaming on our screen and just sharing your passion with us. There are a lot of comments that you need to get through. So if you've got some time, if you can just watch the screen, because obviously you'll be seeing it on a different side.
Yeah.
If you If there's some stuff that you need to respond to, even if it's tomorrow or the next day on the weekend, you are more than welcome to still respond, because some people will watch it at a later stage. Obviously, the time difference and stuff like that. But we are going to say,
definitely will.
We are going to say goodnight to you. We're going to cancel you off our screen. If you can just jump back into the comments department for the next 10 minutes, we are going to light up the comments for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a great experience being on your platform and sharing my experiences.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Right, guys. My word. Okay. Whew. For those of you who we didn't even get time to greet, we would just like to apologize. As you can see, we tried to jump straight into things. Can you believe it? It is now 10 to 7. We got 10 minutes to the top of the hour. Guys, we are going to light up the comments department like crazy. We're just going to wait for Miss Scopel to join the stream. Hopefully, she'll send me a message when she's here. And then we are going to light up the comments department. Yeah, I'm literally going to play like 10 seconds of a song. Okay. The color is blue. Sorry, Rose. The color is blue. We still keeping it under the autistic umbrella. So that is the color for autism awareness.
Okay, guys. It's the general consensus from what I've been seeing in the comments is that we lack, in a sense, where it comes to having remedial support in all our schools. So I actually think that there should be remedial support in every single school, regardless. Why is this not happening? I don't understand. This used to happen before. Because I remember growing up, there was remedial support. Is it because of the stigma that this got taken away? Or is it because we don't have teachers?
I don't know, but the people are lighting up the comments department already. Mrs. Kopel, are you?
She's in, yes.
Okay, so we are just going to play a song. Just going to sabalaza a song for you guys. Yeah, I hope this thing plays because woo! Guys.
Let's play!
Love to see you shine in the night like a diamond in your heart. I'm good on the track, it's alright. Just hold me in the dark. No one's got to know what you get me up when you go. Shouted down the street, so me when you need and it's yours. All I hear, nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better. Nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better. I'm not. We don't got it high. This is what you like out of me. Nothing feels better when you say we're just friends, but I swear when nobody's around, I keep my hand around your neck, you connect, are you feeling it now? 'Cause I am. I just so hotter than that, scared to die from my feet and lift the ground. Oh yeah. Back against the wall, this is all you've been talking about. My ears, nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better. Nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better. Tonight, we don't got it high. This is what you like out of me. Nothing feels better. Let's I take you back when you said like that.
Okay, guys, like I said, I was literally only going to play 2 minutes of that song. Stephanie, there was a comment that you had written on the screen. I can't seem to find it right now, and it was something that I wanted to read out. So if somebody can go back to their comments and maybe send a message or something to make me look at it, please do. But yes, guys, so that is how we are closing off our autism awareness, where we've broken it down into 2 sessions. Please, if you are in a position to share our stream, I know there's certain moms or certain parents that are part of autism groups. If you can just share it in the groups and let the guys watch it, we'd really appreciate it. We don't have much time left. Tonight at 7 after us is DJ Dazzle. She'll catch you guys till 8 o'clock.
Okay, so guys, you know, I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking that, okay, so autism we said we would do over 2 weeks because we wanted to cover a lot. Guys, we haven't even scratched the surface of what we actually wanted to cover for autism. It's a huge thing. And we know that South Africa is way behind when it comes to schools, when it comes to resources, when it comes to everything. But the main thing, guys, and I always say it, one of the reasons why we started our Wednesday shows, let's try and eradicate the stigma around remedial. It's always been my passion. Well, obviously because I'm an autism mother, but remedial is there to help. It's not a stigma. I know most parents look at it as a stigma. And I know that a lot of parents actually don't get their kids diagnosed because of the stigma. But doing these shows, we are hoping that more parents will actually see it and actually get their children diagnosed and actually give the children the help that they need. Because, guys, these kids need help from a very early age. And once the child gets to high school, it sometimes has done so much damage. Their self-esteem is so broken that they actually don't have the tools to cope. So guys, let's get rid of the stigma. Let's get more into diagnosing. Let's get more getting our kids into the correct schools that they need to be in, because really, we want to have good, wholesome adults, and it needs to start in the first years of our children's lives. So let's get the help that we need.
Okay, so Wendy says, and this is quite relevant, the main thing is for parents to accept when their child is struggling at school and get them the necessary help they need. Remedial is there to help, and no stigma should be attached.
Thank you. That is exactly what I was trying to say, Wendy. Thank you so much for saying it.
There we go. Amanda, early intervention is best.
It is, guys. I'm speaking from experience. My son at grade 2 was diagnosed, and he went from not being able to construct a sentence to reading off the cards. Even with his own accent, he's reading it. And I actually sit there and I think to myself, oh my word, being in remedial has done so much for him. Just the way he interacts with people, the tools that he's been given, his therapies that he gets. It's absolutely awesome, guys.
Mrs. Gopal, I know you're still in the stream, and we actually, while you are here, Roz and I have a project that we would like to kick off while we are still in this month. It's something that we will chat to you about it in our WhatsApp group. I think you are the best person for our start, basically. Okay, guys, so we are saying good night.
1 minute left.
No, don't even start. We are saying good night to you guys. It was an absolute pleasure. I hope you guys missed us after the Easter weekend. You didn't even say,
oh, like, welcome back.
Welcome back. Nothing.
Back.
You missed us. Nuts. But anyway, Sunday we will unpack today was not the day to speak about Sunday and Easter and the weekend and what you did, all those 101 things. As you can see,
it was let's talk.
Topic. We serious on Wednesday. So, guys, we will catch you guys on Sunday. Fan zone at 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for all your comments. We haven't gone through not even 50%.
I'm going to go through all the comments and I'm going to try and reply on as much that I can. So guys, we are planning a very fun-filled show for Sunday, obviously because we like it to be light-hearted. I actually just found out something yesterday, and I told Tony about it. So we're going to speak about it on Sunday because I actually didn't know that this was actually possible in South Africa. But anyway, we're going to speak about it on Sunday, and I would also like to know if you guys would actually do it. But yes.
Penny, no one gave you Sunday off. Okay, that's the topic for Sunday, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, for touching base with us, for always commenting and telling us how you guys feel in the comments. It assists. Mrs. Gopal, if you're still in the stream, thank you once again from the fan zone for coming onto this platform. It can be quite daunting. Okay, early diagnosis is brilliant. The earlier parents come to terms with the learning barriers of their child, the sooner they can encourage and motivate their child, allowing them to grow positively. Okay, we're going to end on that note. We love you guys. We'll see you guys on Sunday. Bye.